My name is Claudia Wolter. I'm a CPA with Katzabosch in Timonium, Maryland, and I've been with them for 30 years. My focus is on accounting and auditing from the client-facing side, but also Lean Six Sigma. I've always been involved in process improvement within the organization, and I'm also taking that outside to clients as I found, that's something I'm very passionate about. Wastefulness in a business can take on a lot of different shapes and forms. It's a lot of times more evident in the manufacturing industry because you can see where there's bottlenecks in a process or you can see defects in a product. But in a service industry or an office, it's a lot harder to identify with. But if you think about expectations, sometimes a customer has one set of expectations, but as a business, you're providing them something that doesn't line up with their expectations. Also, the staff in a business might have different expectations than what you have with them. So communication and training is very important. If you train them properly, they're more inclined to deliver what you'd like them to deliver. If you also think about shared resources, you want your shared resources in an office to be strategically placed so that everyone can access those, be it printers and copiers or supplies or your administrative staff. It's just helpful to have those in a place so people aren't moving around all the time trying to find those things. Those shared resources should be accessible and they should be able to find them easily. So, if you have closets, maybe things are labeled. Files, you want to have a standardized filing system, maybe a standardized naming system. So if they're looking for items, they can find them more easily. And just think about ways that your business has duplications. You might have two people doing the same task because they need the same information, and you can have one person do it and they can share that information. Think about the 80-20 rule. 80% of your business is operating very well, 20% of it, it's driving you crazy. That's probably where the waste is, and that's where you want to focus on improving things. So Lean Six Sigma combines the philosophies of Lean and Six Sigma, which are really two different principles. They focus on process improvement, and they can be applied to both your business and your personal life. And if you think about using Google Maps to get to your location instead of pulling out the paper map, there's an instance of using basically a process improvement in your life. Six Sigma was created in 1986 by the Motorola Corporation, and it focuses on reducing variability and eliminating defects in production process. When you reduce variability in a process, you're going to have a better product that you're going to deliver to your customer, and you're going to have a more satisfied customer. So Six Sigma really focuses on customer satisfaction, having your customer come back, and increasing the top line for your revenue. Lean focuses on reducing waste, ensuring efficiency in a process. So it focuses on reducing expenses, which also fall to the bottom line. It's easier to see Lean Six Sigma applied in a manufacturing process, but it's also can be applied to any type of business and any type of service industry. All businesses have a bid and proposal process, they have a billing and collection process, and they just have the process to develop whatever they deliver to their customers. And if you think about a restaurant delivers both a product and a service to its clients. So what makes people return to a restaurant? It's consistency in the food and consistency in the service, assuming both are good. And if you go to a restaurant, you're consistently getting crispy fries and your drinks are getting refilled, you're more likely to return than if it's inconsistent. Sometimes the fries are soggy, sometimes they're crispy, and you never know what waitstaff you're going to get for the day. So all businesses can use some TLC in their processes to help with their customer satisfaction. Manufacturing is the birthplace of Lean Six Sigma, and a lot of large corporations have implemented a lot of automation into their businesses today. But there's still a lot of mom and pop shops out there who operate as they have for the last 40, 50 years. And in manufacturing, there's so many opportunities for automation and ways to get rid of waste. If you think about maybe a business that manufactures belts, dog leashes, a couple different things like that, maybe they have to go through some changes every time they're changing what they're developing. But they have different machines within the warehouse, and one of them is the cutter. So the cutter cuts the belt, and then it needs to be moved to where it's sewn together. So a lot of times what they'll do is batch processing, and they'll cut 100 belts, throw 100 belts into a cart, and then push that over to wherever the sewing machine is. And at the sewing machine, they sew together the belt, they stitch it, or the dog leash, whatever it is, 100 at a time, move that cart to wherever they punch the holes in it. That cart then has to go to where the buckle's installed. And those things aren't always strategically located as we would think in an assembly line type of production. So that's one opportunity. Another opportunity is if you think about at any given point in time, we could have 400 or 600 belts, depending on bottlenecks, 1,000 belts in process. So that ties up valuable resources within an organization as well. So just looking at ways to implement assembly line types of things and not doing batch processing. Try to keep one item moving through the process at any given point in time will help to eliminate waste in a manufacturing type of setting. So when we're doing a Lean Six Sigma project and we're looking at the categories of waste, we use the acronym D.O.W.N.T.I.M.E. Sometimes we use downtime plus A. The D in downtime stands for defects, and defects are easier to see in a manufacturing type of organization. But in a service organization, think about any time there's variability in a process, lack of consistency. The O stands for overproduction, and overproduction happens when you're doing more than you need to, more than your customer needs. The W stands for waiting. Think about bottlenecks in a process. Bottlenecks are more obvious in a manufacturing organization, but in a service industry, or in an office, think about piles of paper on people's desks. Where's the bottleneck occurring? The N stands for not utilizing people's talent, and you have different levels of talent in your organization. T stands for transportation. Think about snail mail versus email, or the old paper envelopes that people used to pass around the office with people's initials on them. So moving things around takes time and effort, and if we can implement things with electronic resources, you can save time. I stands for inventory, and it's really excess inventory. So again, it's not just manufactured inventory. In a service organization, it can be work in process, and it can be producing more than our customers' needs are. M stands for motion, and that's time looking for things. It might be because there's excess clutter and you can't find what you need because there's so many things that you don't need around, or it could be because there's inconsistencies in the way that people file things, name things, etc. E stands for excess processing, and excess processing occurs when potentially you have people doing duplicate functions, as we discussed previously. And then the A that we throw in is for attitude, because you need people in the organization to have the right attitude and the leaders to have the right attitude in order to move forward with your Lean Six Sigma project. The tone at the top in an organization is very important. You need to have the buy-in of the organization's leaders, and if you don't, you have to proceed with caution or not at all. Here's some questions that you can actually ask to help, be a catalyst for change and get buy-in with an organization. Why do we have to make this change? Why is this change better? And what is the cost of not implementing this change within the organization? And if you think about the costs of not implementing change, change happens so rapidly in today's world. You have to move with it. You have to move forward. Think about the Blockbusters and the Blackberries of the world. They're not around anymore because they didn't change. So in going through the process improvement, a lot of times you'll find pieces of the process that you didn't realize were broken and you might not consider broken, that you can still fix, and you can, they're called small wins, and you take small wins and you multiply them times however many times you do this process in a year, and you can actually have large wins in terms of dollars. And I really think small wins are the hidden treasures in the Lean Six Sigma process. D.M.A.I.C is the way we approach looking at a Lean Six Sigma project. D.M.A.I.C stands for Define, Measure, Analyze, Improve, and Control. And in the define phase, what you do is you create a project charter which defines what the project is with the end goals in mind. And we put together a team of individuals from within the organization. And you want to look at a cross-functional team. So you want people from different levels in the organization and people that look at different parts of the process in the organization. So I was reading something recently about a busboy involved in a project who he identified how they were always throwing away a lot of fries with every order when they cleared the table. The business started delivering less fries with the orders, and they saved $100,000 the following year. So always remember the busboy is as important as anyone else in the process. Next, we measure the process, which includes mapping out the process. So you determine how the process flows from start to finish. And you also come up with some key performance indicators. So your key performance indicators will help you, if you look at them before you implement any project and afterward, to see what the change is and see what your savings is based on this project itself. Next, we analyze the project and we look at the process and see how we might change it, where bottlenecks occur, where there might be manual processes, and just any breakdown in the process. After we analyze the process, the group will break up and look into some things. Maybe it's technological things, maybe it's meeting with other people in the organization, and they come up with what they think the improved process should be. Group gets back together, maps out what the improved process is, and then after that, the process is controlled. It's rolled out to the rest of the organization. Continuous improvement is in mind. You have to keep looking at these things and see if anything needs to be improved. And then also keep in mind failing forward, which is a concept we use where maybe you get 80% of it right and you get 20% of it wrong. Don't focus on the 20%. Just tweak that 20% and move forward with that. So when you implement D.M.A.I.C, which is define, measure, analyze, improve, and control, first you define the process, you come up with the team and figure out what your goals are. Next, you measure the process. So you look at key performance indicators to determine what those are so you can measure them before and after implementing a project. But what we like to do when we get a group together, which is often, it can be 10 to 12 individuals, depending on the size of the process that you're looking at, is we put a big piece of craft paper up on the wall. We take pieces of paper that are different colors and shapes so that we can see different parts of the process. You can determine where bottlenecks occur, and we map that on the wall and with what each things are. Because a process typically has a couple different ways of looking at it. There's the way the policy is written, if you're lucky to have a written policy. There's the way management thinks it's actually operating, and then the ways it's actually operating, which can be multiple ways as well. So once you have the process mapped out, a lot of good discussion will ensue amongst that group because they'll see how messed up things are and that they're not all doing things the same way. There's not consistency. And you'll see why you have to go through this exercise. Next, the process is analyzed, which sometimes happens at the same time that we're going through that mapping, and we'll figure out where we want to eliminate some of the waste. And then the group will separate and have certain homework that they are all responsible for. They'll look into maybe technological solutions, or they will meet with other small teams to come up with ideas of how to improve things. And they'll reconvene, go through the improvement phase to actually improve the process, map out the improved process, and then control it by rolling it out to the rest of the organization. Five S is a strategy of waste elimination, and the idea is everything has a place and everything should be in its place. There's some great illustrative tools online. If you Google 5S exercises, you'll find some of those exercises. One that we did in my training and that I used internally in my office is called the 5S numbers games. We're accountants, so we like that. But it's a very interesting exercise to go through to show how it's so much easier to find things when they're where they're supposed to be and you don't have a lot of clutter that you're trying to sort through. The S's stand for sort, straighten, shine or scrub, standardize, and sustain. So sort means you go through everything and find what only the essential items are. So one way you can think about this is we've all had things in our kitchen that will do one function. They've come out more and more today with things that do multiple functions. So if you have something that can do multiple items, but you still have that item that does one function, maybe you get rid of it because then you have less clutter in your kitchen. Comes to straighten, this is one where everything has a place and should be in its place, and you can find when things are missing, and it's easy to find things. So I think about the knife block in my kitchen. Each one of those holes in the knife block holds a particular knife. I know exactly where to go to find it, and I can see if anything's missing from my knife block, so I can then try to find it. Shine scrub means you want to have all your tools in good working order. You're less likely to have a malfunction or have a safety concern or something, if all of your tools are in good working order. And again, if you think about the knife example, you're going to cut things more easily and be less likely to cut yourself if your tools are in good working order. Standardize is something you'd want to do in an office so that people can find files more easily if things are standardized. Also, if you think about a business that has multiple locations, like a restaurant, if all the kitchens are organized exactly the same, you can switch kitchen staff more easily because they know exactly where to find everything. And lastly is sustain. And sustain just means you need to keep looking at your other S's in order to move forward because it's easy to fall back into your old ways.